left without everything.
Tears, disappointment.
As tears flow, so do acts of goodness. This is the New Revelation Missionary Baptist Church in Pasadena Wednesday. Fire refugees were here to pick up basic items like soap, toilet paper, and toys. People who lost everything in the explosive Eaton Canyon fire turned to their church for help. The pastor of the church, in conjunction with the Urban League, answered the distress call.
To listen, to hear, to empathize, not to act as we have the answers, because we don't, but to go back and find the resources that can maybe make the load a little bit lighter over these next few days.
The church estimates it's helped 2,000 people so far displaced by the fire. Some can't get beyond the evacuation zone. Others, like this woman, who came here for help, knows the bitter truth. This snapshot shows her home's final moments.
All of my family that lived in Altadena, all of our homes are now burnt to the foundation.
From 9 to 9, the relief effort continues here. Everything from staples to insurance claims. Volunteers amaze. Like this young Loyola Marymount law student volunteering to help victims fill out a mountain of paperwork. She's not alone.
It's been amazing to see the support that's come out. There was a point where there was too many volunteers, and I'm just really proud of the community for coming together.
It's beautiful. It's phenomenal. It's just that to show that how much love people have out here for each other, to show to each other love back. It's good. It's awesome.
A lot of raw emotion out here today from so many sides. I think you could hear it in people's voices. As we come back live here in Pasadena, people are still filtering in. What they're doing at this hour is they're coming to get hot meals to go, which are at the other end. And I'm told that they're serving hot chicken tonight. People seem very happy about that as their lives are in complete turmoil and upheaval. They will keep this open till 9 o'clock tonight through Friday. Then after that, they expect to scale back hours. But I can tell you here, a lot of people jumping in to say, how can I help? And the victims are feeling that love. I'm Laura Diaz reporting live from Pasadena, sending it back to the studio.
Love to see that, Laura. Thank you. As our community recovers from these devastating wildfires, local and federal law enforcement agencies teaming up to combat fire-related crimes. A new joint task force will investigate arson, looting, fraud, and illegal drone use. The group includes the FBI, ATF, and the LAPD. The goal is to stop criminals from exploiting victims and ensure swift prosecutions. So far, authorities arresting nearly 100 people in areas impacted by the fires. Here's the breakdown. Santa Monica PD says it's made 4.
Weather is sponsored by Yamava Resort and Casino.
Well, as our Santa Ana wind event winds down, we still have a lot to talk about in the weather, including the air quality. I'm going to get to that in about a minute, but as we take this live view, and if you're outdoors today, you notice how blue the skies were, and things are seemingly fine as far as the air goes, but still some toxic pollutants remain. So we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's just start right here, though. Obviously, the winds on a lot of people's mind. And as we look at this map, this is just going to use these colors to highlight where we still see some wind gusts that are between 20 and even up to 40 miles per hour in some of the higher elevations right now. So we still see that far north and northwest of L.A. and a little pocket here right down the 15 corridor, Cajon Pass, into parts of the Inland Empire. And that's where we see a wind advisory that's still in effect, but only for a short time longer. It officially expires at 6 p.m. today. The L.A. and Ventura County wind advisories have pretty much come to an end for the time being, for the foreseeable future. And also the red flag warnings, that's also still holding, but until 6 p.m. today. Then there is a sliver of certain areas here north where the red flag warning does actually extend into Thursday at 3 p.m. That's going to be parts of the western San Gabriels, the Santa Susana Mountains, kind of the mountains around the Santa Clarita Valley. So that area highlighted in white still will be under a red flag warning into 3 p.m. tomorrow. And that's because there's still going to be at times some gusty winds. We're not talking about anything extreme, but it will be gusty up there between now and, let's say, midday tomorrow. So as we continue through the night into tomorrow morning, again, notice how much lower the wind speeds are area-wide. Still a little breezy up there around Santa Clarita and the mountains surrounding it. By 3 p.m. tomorrow, we see all alerts coming to an end. And notice what's happening with the winds at this point. Finally, an onshore wind, and that will boost our humidity. Okay, we talked about this earlier, and this is deceiving, actually. Many of the air quality sensors are measuring good air quality right now. These are picking up on things like ozone and particulate matter. But these air quality sensors, they don't measure toxic pollutants. And I just listened to a lengthy webinar hosted by the Coalition for Clean Air today, where experts on the subject talking about how these pollutants can remain, and actually for a long time. And you might want to think about still, you know, wearing a mask if you're going to be outdoors until we get a real clear sense of what's going on, especially with the cleanup process still underway. They've got that webinar, that video on their website, ccair.org, ccair.org, if you want to look into all the details that they talked about during that. Now, as we move away from this event, I do want to let you know that models are hinting at another Santa Ana wind event going into next week, but the details are all over the place. It's going to depend on the position of a high and a low. I'll just show you right here for Monday. This model is placing this low to our west. There's another one that'll place it to our south, which would mean we might see stronger winds starting on Monday of next week, stronger offshore winds, which would be Santa Ana winds. And just to give you an idea of what we're kind of looking at behind the scenes here in the weather department, we have two primary models that are reliable to go out pretty far ahead in time, and both of these are looking at the exact same time frame on Monday. Here's one, the Euro, showing gusts 40, 50 plus. Here's the GFS, or the American model, that shows winds almost completely calm across our area at the exact same time. So that's why it's hard to be real confident on the Santa Ana wind forecast for next week, but we see a potential setup. It'll be something to watch. The Monday to Tuesday time frame would be the time to watch for it. Otherwise, again, our weather's settling down. We're going to find humidity going up, might even be some fog near the coast Thursday night and Friday night, and temperatures will be cooler Friday through Sunday.
There's been dramatic improvement in the Eaton fire with 45% containment.
Fox 7 Gigi Graciat shares the story of an elderly couple who lost their home and a lifetime of memories.
Behind every destroyed house, there is a story. And I happen to know the story of this block, Norwich Village, because this was the home of my friend's parents, John and Chris. Take a look at what's left. Norwich Village, once known as Little Normandy because of the cottages that were built here between 1925 and 1948. You were looking at the home of John and Chris. John is 91. My friend's mother, Chris, is 85. They've lived here on Norwich Place for decades. John's an Army veteran. He worked at JPL for 48 years. And I'm learning this morning that a lot of folks who live in this area of Altadena worked at JPL. He was a professional photographer, and the family estimates he now has lost over 80,000 photos that he had on all of his hard drives, photos of history being made in many cases. He also lost his oxygen machines, his breathing treatment machines. The entire cul-de-sac is gone. I'm going to ask photographer Tony Butita to pan over to the left. Again, this is Norwich Village, once known as Little Normandy. The entire village was designed by architect J. Wilmer Hershey. He's the designer of the Santa Barbara Courthouse and the master plan for the entire community of San Clemente. This block was declared an Altadena Heritage Area on June the 5th, 2005. This block forms part of the 4,627 homes and buildings that have been destroyed, and unfortunately that number is expected to go up. And our heart goes out to all the folks. I'm going to ask photographer just to keep panning over there. You can see in the distance this entire cul-de-sac is gone. It is all gone. Every single home on this block, Norwich Village, is gone this morning. An Altadena Heritage Site declared in 2005, and our hearts go out to all the families, to John and Chris and everybody.
So upsetting to see that. Gigi, thank you. Still ahead. Animals rescued from fires are now in the care of the Pasadena Humane Society, including a days-old puppy found alone.
The rock world has stepped up when it comes to fire donations. Take a look at the famed concert venue, the Whiskey A Go-Go on the Sunset Strip. It was turned into a fire donation drive for the past 3 days, with today being distribution day. Items from clothing to water to dog food were collected.
We have so much empathy, and I think that the rock and roll scene needs that because there's such tough exterior. So I figured, maybe we can gather those people to help us help everybody else. We advertised Sunday a little bit. None of us have major Instagram, followers or anything, so I don't know how it blew up to where it did.
Amidst a sound check right there, organizer Joelle Dowley does an annual benefit at the Whiskey called Midnight Wonderland, so she had that connection already to donate to the Midnight Mission. Meanwhile, tomorrow's concert is Sophie Lloyd, who rehearsed there as donated items were packed up to go.
We'll be right back.
Pasadena Humane Society has been putting in work rescuing some 400 animals. Jessica Dubnak reports.
Here at Pasadena Humane, they've taken in 400 plus animals because of these fires. Everything from dogs, cats, to tortoises, even wildlife. The line you see behind me, folks that are hoping to be reunited with their pets. For some of them, it's the only thing they have left.
She came in yesterday, and you can see her face is pretty burnt up.
Oh my God.
She's got burns on her paw pads.
This is the intensive care unit at Pasadena Humane, a kitten found by a firefighter in Altadena, now recovering here. You kind of numb to it all, or does it still kind of get you?
Absolutely not numb to it. It's very sad.
Alyssa Stanolin says it's the biggest influx of displaced animals they've seen here, many with burns and smoke inhalation. One of the worst cases, a 5-day-old puppy. Animal control found in a collapsed building. Her mom and siblings nowhere to be found.
She had burns on her little ears, and she was all alone. We don't know where her mother was or the rest of her litter, but that's a very small puppy who needs round-the-clock care.
The cages are full. Animal control rescuing them finally led in the burn areas in the last 48 hours. And outside, a line of people hoping their missing pets are here, like Leroy Bennett.
What do those two little dogs mean to you?
Oh, well, they was my auntie dogs who passed away. So, Gigi and Gaga.
He wasn't home when fire destroyed it, and his uncle, who was in a wheelchair.
He was only able to grab his wheelchair and my big dog, Samson. And the two little dogs are small as they ran off.
The pups were not here. Now he'll try 24 more area shelters. They continue to take in anything that comes through the door. The staff is tired, but won't quit.
It's taken a toll on a lot of us, but we're doing our best, and we're here to help the animals. It's kind of our duty and our honor to be helping them.
Jessica, thank you, and thank you for joining us at 5. I'm glad to be back with you, Southern California. Turn it now over to the 6.
Now, this is the Fox 11 News at 6.
And welcome to the Fox 11 News at 6 o'clock. I'm Alex Michelson.
Thanks so much for being with us. I'm Marla Tejas. There has been, this is the good news, there's been little to no growth on both the Palisades and the Eaton fires. Containment is at 19% for the Palisades fire, 45% for Eaton. The death toll, it stands at 25. About 100,000 residents are still under evacuation orders. 12,000 structures were destroyed between both fires, and curfews are still in effect in those fire zones.
Let's take a look outside right now. Mount Wilson looks a whole lot different than it did about a week ago. Chief Meteorologist Adam Kruger, are we out of the woods yet?
We can see the edge of the woods. For most of us, we might actually be out of the woods, yes. We are at the end of this event. There's still a portion north of L.A. where a red flag warning extends into tomorrow. But overall, winds are lower. And by the way, I'm just showing you the current gusts right now. And the colors on the map are going to show where there's still some gusts over 20 miles per hour, a little bit through the IE. But mostly it's pretty far off towards the north, near and even north and west of the Santa Clarita Valley right now. So still some gusts that are offshore, still dry air in place. And that's why that red flag warning extends a little longer. Now, right at 6 o'clock, and I was just kind of scrambling to update maps and stuff like that, the wind advisory was completely dropped. So this map is blank, and that's great. I've no problem showing you a blank wind advisory map for the first time in so long. The red flag warning for almost the entire area expired at 6 p.m. today, but this area right here is what I was talking about earlier that actually extends into 3 p.m. tomorrow, because still there's going to be some offshore, somewhat breezy winds here, maybe some gusts up to 20 to 40 in the higher elevations that could persist through tonight and tomorrow morning. So again, this area right here, just kind of the mountains around Santa Clarita, including the Santa Susana Mountains, parts of the San Gabriels, that red flag warning goes until 3 p.m. tomorrow. And then we are out of the woods for at least a few days, and I'll explain why I say it like that in a little bit. Gusts right now as we go into the night. Again, you see the numbers really just backing down. There is going to be this territory up here where it could be a little bit gusty through the first part of the day tomorrow. And then not only do wind speeds come down, but also we see the wind direction change in our favor tomorrow. Notice it's the onshore wind. You can follow the streamlines, and we finally have that pattern for the first time in a long time. So that's going to bring the humidity up and really help us out in terms of what we're dealing with dry air and gusty winds, and it all just kind of comes to an end. Now, I want to mention this because this is also deceiving. I know a lot of people have been monitoring air quality index monitors, which are all showing good right now. That is deceiving, though, because, and a lot of experts in this field weighed in on this today. There was a webinar hosted by the Coalition of Clean Air with a panel of people that are specifically, very knowledgeable in this topic. And so they were talking about how toxic pollutants remain and that those pollutants are not measured by the air quality sensors that picks up more things like particulates and ozone, for example. So just now on foxla.com/links, we've got a link to today's webinar from the Coalition for Clean Air. I know a lot of people have questions about how safe are we, how unsafe is it, and when things improve, and there's a long discussion on there if you want to find more information about that. We still have, again, and I'll talk about this a little later, potentially another Santa Ana wind event to watch out for next week. We'll get to that a bit later on. Guys?
All right, Adam, good information. Thank you. Unfortunately, there is something else to worry about right now, and that is the threat of landslides in the Palisades. Look at this shot. Skyfox over the 17,000 block of Castella Mar Drive, where there is a house that appears to be sliding. It looks almost cracked in half.
The search for what sparked the Palisade fires continues, as well as does the recovery effort. Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf reports from the region.
Crews out here today making major progress in the cleanup. Just take a look at this tree, burnt all the way down to its core. And then over here, crews out here today were cutting logs, fixing gas and power lines, trying to get people back to their homes as soon as possible. A race to restore order in the heavily burned Pacific Palisades. Power and gas crews working overtime in a frenzy, trying to get utilities back and running.
We're doing the best we can and trying to get them back up, fixing everything and trying to make it safe again.
How's it going? Just Fox 11. Only news media and first responders allowed into the burn zone, with police on constant patrol for looters. The National Guard setting up a large camp on PCH, complete with mobile shelters.
This is the best place in LA, and then suddenly this.
Jason McKyle works security for several homeowners in Malibu.
Because the hill came down, and then suddenly, Saturday morning.
This house nearby split in half by a landslide. Thousands across the area decimated, now charred piles of rubble.
Yesterday I got sick. I was so painful, I started throwing up. I was hurt. I mean, we worked so hard.
And now the painful process of looking for human remains. This is something officials want to finish before people can start moving back in.
There's some teams that are going through this small community and trying to see what they can find.
ATF and arson investigators near Skull Rock combing for clues.
And they systematically go to an area and pinpoint where the origin and cause of that fire is.
Another fire New Year's morning in the same general area, part of the investigation, as well as more than 150 tips recently called in.
We're not going to leave any stone unturned. We have the best of the best up there investigating the origin and cause of this fire.
Crews from CAL FIRE and Caltrans clearing brush in Santa Monica along the Pacific Coast Highway, making defensible space close to the Palisades fire burn zone. So many people anxious to get back to their homes, but so far, no timeline has been given. Reporting in Pacific Palisades, Matthew Seedorf, Fox 11 News.
So far, authorities arresting almost 100 people, all accused of various fire-related crimes. Here's the breakdown by jurisdiction. Santa Monica Police Department says it's made 40 arrests. The LAPD arresting 14. LA County Sheriff's deputies arresting 44 people. That department also making 2 additional arrests for illegal drone incidents. A curfew remains in place from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the mandatory evacuation areas in both the Palisades and Eaton fire zones. Anyone caught inside the zones during curfew could be arrested and face serious charges.
LA landlords are jacking up rent by as much as 124%, according to a report by the New York Post. Right now, by law, building and property owners cannot raise the price of rent by more than 10% after Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency. With us now is the Attorney General of California, Rob Bonta. Mr. Attorney General, welcome back to the show.
Good evening. Thanks for having me, Alex.
What are you seeing in terms of price gouging right now?
Unfortunately, during this moment when